Welcome to Academy Standouts for week 2 of summer 2021. If you haven't been following along with this series before, I pick a handful of players each week out of Academy after watching all of the games and say kind of who impressed me the most, who did the most to some combination of peak performance and consistency across all the games. I like highlighting players who had really big showings, but without having any games where they really kind of were non-existent or through or anything like that. So I usually pick 3 players to highlight the most, and then a handful of other players who are kind of like, these guys are noticeable too and deserve some credit. So let's look who impressed me last week. And the first of all, as you can see, is Kenvy. And by scrolling down, I reveal more of the list. But Kenvy from 100 Thieves Academy, and he really stood out on Xin Zhao, was his big pick. He played it 3 times, won all 3 games. Huge carry performance, was popping off. Had help from Ryoma's Karma. And then Tenacity played Lulu in one of the other games, so he always had that kind of supportive mage behind him from the solo lanes to really buff him up, but he was the one kind of expressing himself the most, carrying a lot. You can see he had huge damage, 721 damage, and that's for a jungler, no less. Really high kill participation. He's falling behind in his pathing, but overall he played super, super well, and the team played around him, and I think this is the kind of meta where a player like Envy really gets to shine. And pop off, and we definitely saw it from him this week. Next up was, on the bottom side of the map, same team, Luger, I thought, had also a great week. He played a few different things. He played a couple games of Callista, he played Jinx, he played Varus, but he can really play all these different things, and as I say in kind of the written version here, sometimes he doesn't really do specific stuff where I can say, oh, he was a standout this week because he made this big play, or because he dominated the laning phase, or whatever. He just does all of he does all the things, and he's just good, and he does a lot of stuff. One standout play from last week was he did. There was a play where he and Poom tried to make an aggressive play, and it didn't quite work out, and Poom got killed. The lane came back at them. Prismal and Newbie tried to punish and dive Luger, and Luger just outplayed at 1v2 and got a kill instead. So, that was, if you want to look for a highlight play, you can look that one up. But just in general, he's just really good and does all the things he needs to do. It is very interesting seeing it with such low kill participation numbers, only 53% last week, and unless I've got these rows reversed, I think I'm pretty sure the 5.0 is from his overall for the split, but they're not playing around him, but he's playing really well. They're playing around Kenvy a little bit more, but he's doing all the stuff he has to do, picking up his farm, putting out his damage. Just a really great player. And then finally, Copy is the other kind of standout that I want to highlight. Mid laner for Cloud9 Academy, and this is a guy who, aside from not having a photo to show for him, because for some reason, actually there's somewhere I can grab that photo. I'll edit that in after I finish this video, but he came into this year off of 100 Thieves Next and was kind of labeled as the supportive mid laner, not really the stand-up carry kind of guy, but he's playing so many different kinds of things this year and really rounding himself out as a player, and as kind of like the only real rookie on a team. Like Isles is relatively inexperienced as well, but he's got so much experience around him, especially now that Sven is playing on C9 Academy this split. Instead of King, both of them are very veteran players, but Copy is the guy who has to, I'm sure, make a bigger effort to have his voice heard and not just kind of get drowned out by all the veterans around him and know what they want to do and how they want to play. And he's really starting to assert himself. He played Nocturne, Lee Sin, and then 2 set games. The main thing that stood out to me about him was kind of his second man in plays, or his reactive plays, or there's a fight breaking out in the side lane and he was making it there on Nocturne, whether it's a teleport, an ultimate. He's making it there with a roam on foot, joining into plays as they happen. But he also made primary plays, Lee Sin plays and engages and so on, and did really well. So being able to play these kind of melee champions that are quite in vogue in the mid lane right now, and do good things in them is a really good sign. And I hope he'll continue to grow, and I'm sure the C9 organization is hoping he'll turn into more and more of an asset for them as well. Other players to highlight a little bit more briefly, Darshan and Isles from C9 Academy as well, and Sven. I thought pretty much the whole team played really well, but these are the ones that I have something to say about. Darshan had a couple of really good games, another pretty decent Lee Sin. He played a Lulu game where not so hot. So, I didn't feel I could put him in the top 3 for that. But and then on Isles, he played things like Nautilus, Tom Kench, just did a lot of good stuff, making roams into the mid lane, being freed up by Sven. And Sven he's just good. He's a good player. Obviously, he's too good for Academy. Pretty also, I think, was worth mentioning. Some really great flanking on a set of his own. He's also playing these melee mid laners. Also played Viego and Lee Sin. He's not just a control mage guy. He can do a lot of different stuff. We did see him go up to LCS for one game, kind of a reward for how well he's been playing. He played in Oriana. They didn't win that game. I think he's actually better on other things, not control mages. But I think he's playing quite well in Academy. And maybe he'll get some more shots at the LCS and try to get a win up there. Rosethorn, somebody who's not on this list quite as often, but I think he's really starting to come into his own. He got to play things like Volibear, and when he does, something that's a little bit more kind of likes to gank and has a lot of CC and some tankiness and stuff like that. Like, he's always been more comfortable, I think, on stuff like the Rek'Sai or the Elise, or like really gank-oriented, kind of forward-thinking, rather than kind of the more pathing, kind of cerebral, like farm up and be efficient and then carry later. I don't think that's so much his style. So as the game moves towards his style, I think he's starting to show up better on that. And I saw some really good Volibear games from him. And then Viper, who was really quite disappointing in week 1, relative to, coming off of being a Proving Grounds winner and being the best player, I'd say the MVP of spring across the Academy amateur ecosystem, and was really not great in week 1, but he really arrived this week. He even played a game of his Vayne, just for fun. But, he playing other things and had some really big carry stuff. And I from what I understand, he's still waiting on a visa situation to be able to come down to LA and join the Academy team, he and both. So, I think there are some reasons that maybe he's not quite in the form he was in the spring so far, and is maybe giving himself a bit of a break at the start, trying to get in sync, playing on a higher ping. Hopefully he'll be able to extend the performance that he showed in week 2 and get into the US, get into LA, and really start to continue his really good comeback story that he's been telling so far this year. So those are the Academy standouts for week 2. Hope you enjoyed, and see you in a week from now. Or you could watch the Academy games along with me and not have to let me tell you who's playing well. Or do both. Whatever, it's up to you.